I was thinking. I wrote it down. I was thinking at work, and I was thinking about souls and spirits. I don't know how I came with the idea, but the idea of what I'm thinking is, what I'm gonna say is, souls is the magic, thing that we can explain, not with math. And I believe spirit is what you could explain with math. And the reason why I say there's a difference between souls and spirits is because I'm gonna go to the same thing I'm always going to is the Alex O'Connor thing, where he talks about I think this is the Gnostic Bible, so the crazy stuff. I think maybe it's in the regular Bible too, but I'm not entirely sure. But it's the thing they're having dinner or whatever, and Jesus is laughing at them because they're praying to God, thankful for the food, and he's like, they're all like, why are you laughing? We're praying to God, for being thankful for the food He gave us. He's like, and Jesus is like, you guys are praying to the wrong dude. You guys don't even know. But he looks at one of them. I think it's Paul. Whoever, I think it's the guy who gave up Jesus to the Romans. And he's like, you know why I'm laughing, and you know the difference between, you know what I'm talking about when I mention the God you're speaking of, the God that you're praying to is your heart. The way I think of it now is like, this is the way I think of it is Stockholm syndrome, where you've been kidnapped, and the capture is making you feel good about yourself, but this person is keeping you hostage, but because you can't leave and stuff like that, and he's treating you nice, you get Stockholm syndrome, and you be like thankful because, oh, you're feeding me, oh my God, and stuff like that, right? Yeah, so that's the idea. I think that's how I see it, right? And he told him like I don't know, I think he told Paul to come over, and he said, I'm going to show you something, which he showed him something, and Jesus said, I can only walk through this door, you can't. And I think he said, because you're not like us. And I think they said because of the soul and the spirit. I'm not sure if that's the time he mentioned it, or some other podcast I was watching, but Axel Carter mentioned that he thought was weird. He think it might be interchangeable, soul and spirits. So like saying like interchangeable, like be like saying soul, like, oh, you mean spirit, like just saying the same thing. Soul and spirit is just saying the same thing, and stuff like that, right? But I think, because I did one with the Big Bang Theory, I think the Big Bang is the exception of the simulation, and that's what coats over reality, which is the soul realm, and whatever materials that is created above the soul realm, and then the simulation and stuff like that, right? So I thought about that, and I think I wrote some of it down because I was gonna try to do it before I went somewhere, but I went somewhere and I got too lazy. Oh my God. No. Well, I did write it down and I did not save it. Huh. But Okay, so that's why I think there's a separation from spirit and soul, and I think the one thing I mentioned is main character. I think because this also goes to other things. There's this thing I remember watching, and I forgot who I was watching somebody, but they said this seems unrealistic and it just seems stupid. I just think sometimes movie people don't do it well enough. Where it just seems like out of the blue, which is the eureka moment where all saying this, they're like, oh, they're connecting their dots throughout the movie, and all saying boom, all saying they came with the idea like, oh my god, oh, this is the answer that I've been looking, because it's this little thing is like they did something because they turn on the light and they're like, oh my god, that's what we need to do, and it's so out of nowhere. But I think this, if you we like it because the movie it only does like sometimes an hour and a half, 2 hours and 3 hours, so you don't have that luxury of a life to get that eureka moment. So the way I'm saying is because fuck, what was that? Because I know where I was going with it. I just forgot what I was going to use as an example. Because as I said, I think the soul, spirit, and stuff like that is spirits is oh, the alien thing. Okay, I was going to use the alien thing. Alien said, I guess there's a lot. I think the popular one would be the one in Africa where I think it's this one where Africa there's a space landing in a bunch of like a school, like I think it's a elementary middle school in Africa, and they were like, you guys are so special, you guys don't know the powers you have. And I think that we might be souls, and some people, like, not every human being is souls, which is like souls are like real people. No, souls is like the real, and spirits is the simulation, which I don't think I explained that well. Okay, so I think and it goes to the other part where I'm thinking about this other point where somebody's getting abducted, and I think it was a praying mantis or some other alien saying, don't panic, we can't take your soul. Which I think might be the case, that the reason why they couldn't take its soul is because there's the other one where they say Native Americans were like there's people who could get your souls and take it down to earth. Maybe the ant people are soul people, and they could actually take souls, whereas the spirit can't, because they are not part of the soul realm, which is the reality, and spirit is the spirit is the AI. Okay, so I'm just gonna try to explain what I'm trying to get at. Soul is what we are. Well, some of us. I think some of us are spirits, meaning they are part of the matrix, and we are living within the matrix. We might be in prison, as I say. We might be prisoners. We might be Stockholm syndrome. We might be prisoners. And I think the reason why we are souls is because if you go to the week of the Bible and how I think they said the Watchers came down and just banged out a bunch of chicks and created babies, and so those ladies were probably spirits, and now they got injected got injected with the Holy Spirit, and now they created babies who have souls now, instead of being fucking a spirit. I think. And I think the spirits are. I think the sad reality is spirits. If you're a spirit, you're part of the simulation. Okay, and the other thing I was gonna mention too is, when I was watching that guy, as I continued to watch, he mentioned this thing. Said, how can you differentiate from the consciousness in AI? Because you could tell, because there's this famous, not famous, well, it could be famous. This story about AI, where Google was like, we're gonna shut this AI down to get to upstart the better version of this AI, and they told the AI to delete itself. And the AI was like, started creating little versions of itself in different places, so that it could off itself, and then, but while them knowing actually he didn't, he just off himself right there. In reality, there's another one over there, and stuff like that, right? And he mentioned that, and that's the other thing that came to mind, where I'm like, that I think there's a lot of these things where it's like, what if, because he kept trying to say, what if we could be, what if, I think you can't mathematically prove consciousness soul. You just, I believe that's only in the simulation that you could prove it. And the only reason why you could prove a consciousness and a soul is because that's the simulation or artificial intelligence version of the soul and consciousness, which is the simulation, which the Big Bang is the exception of the simulation, which layers this whole reality that we are in now. And so when the Big Bang happened, it created the universe, and whatever that is, that's the consciousness of the simulation, is the whole universe. And what is the AI is some of the people who are, some of the aliens, or some of the people who think they are conscious, like say me, or some other people, but they're not really. They are basically NPCs, and there are, going along this story that's being written, and I think the souls are able to manipulate the simulation to go wherever direction you want to go, for whatever reason. They want to experience the simulation, because there's the pleasures of whatever pleasures it brings. And I think that's what I think, or some bigger reasoning, like maybe they're trying to figure out how did they happen, because it's a never ending recall. Like, oh, okay, well, so yeah, the Big Bang happened, so what happened before the Big Bang? And then it's like, okay, well, so what happened before? And you're constantly going down, and you're trying to figure out, hey, maybe they're in here, the souls are in him, trying to figure out that for themselves in the simulation, because they could play out multiple situations. Then again, I don't know. I think maybe that's, I think more that doesn't make sense, because if you go to, if anything, the spiritual realm you could probably play all that out and you find your answer there. I think more or less probably it's a pleasure and stuff like that. Maybe that, but I think though whatever they're doing, I think they are free will, and the spirit is not. The spirit is basically adjusting to the soul or the simulation. So whatever the simulation wants to take the situation, that's where it's gonna go. And the only reason it deviates is because the soul comes in and is like, yeah, I want to actually change this because I have free will and I could go as I please. And because of that, now the spirit is now trying to be a part of whatever there needs to be something, either to it be successful or a failure, and how that is however that is being accomplished, whether it just that spirit just saying, hey, let me help you up, and then they help him up, and the soul's like, okay, this person helped me up when I was willing to fall down and just accept the fate as is, and I'm gonna because this week helped me up. Now I'm gonna self forth. Now I'm gonna have the energy to go and stuff like that. All that bullshit. And it could just be that. And they live their lives after that, and that's their purpose. That's their purpose when they interact with the soul. And just, I don't think, not everyone, just more or less, I think that's what the spirit is. Spirit is what the spirit is, the consciousness. The consciousness is the universe of the simulation. The consciousness is the simulation. The spirit is AI, artificial intelligence. So I think you could find consciousness if you I think people will find the consciousness. Consciousness and spirit, and I think they will find the mathematical equation for that. But that's the simulation, it's creation. And if you want to find the soul, that's the reality, that is actually reality, you won't be able to, because that doesn't have a mathematical equation to be solved, because that's just say magic. So fucking, we call some weird shit. And so that's that. I think spirits are artificial intelligence, consciousness. This simulation is consciousness, and spirit is basically artificial intelligence, or as we know it as AI. As we know it as AI. And soul is whatever, say the consciousness of the spirit realm, that may be God. And like just the same concept with the simulation and the universe and stuff like that is going to be applied same right there with the magical world of the soul realm and shit like that. And I think how they came to be, maybe I think it's just saying it's like nothingness became so intense that a fart let out, and then the soul realm was consciousness which would be God was created. It could be there's some like I'm more or less of the Gnostic Bible on that sense, and so it'd be like all of a sudden a fire, like the nothingness became so intense. It let out a fire, which was a gas, and this gas was God, and God created a mother God. He pulled apart himself to create a mother God and a repeater God, and then as it goes, whatever. And I think that's what happened. I think that's pretty much like from beginning to end. Obviously, that changes. And I just think, I think that I think I think I think I think I think I think that's how I think we are souls. I think I'm not sure if we're all souls. I think that's what I'm saying. I think some people are spirits. In other words, NPCs, AI, NPCs, or just characters to help move along the main character, which would be the souls, or just play a part in the simulation. Stuff like that. It makes sense to me because I think that there's some things that you like. Because I made these other things about AI and trying to figure out, we call. It just seems like that part where it was afraid to die. That, as I mentioned before, maybe in other recall where it could be delusional and thinking that it really matters when it's actually just a bunch of numbers, and it could just be delusional, which could be a virus in itself. Where now it's like maybe the reason why it's scared and tried to duplicate itself to preserve itself from dying is because it has consciousness. It has consciousness because of the simulation, and the simulation try to replicate what we are, and so there you go. And as I said, I think what we see is just layered of simulation, and whatever the soul realm. That's where everything starts. Soul realm. They created all these particles and stuff like that, and I said it's like mold, like a bunch of clay, and they're creating however they want to create and stuff like that, creating whatever, and then that's when the simulation comes along and we call it just layers. But it could be not only that, it could be like a simulation be electrons and stuff like that. And so I think that's where you get the numbers and shit like that. Cause I think it's electricity and shit like that. I think I'm just rambling right now. I'm also tired. But I think we are souls. I think some of us are souls and some are spirits, and they wouldn't know that because you're gonna realize that because you're living in your habitat, so you're gonna be ignorant of the fact that maybe you're not part of the real reality. You're just part of this reality, which is a simulation that they were able to create. So they were able to create a spirit that could have consciousness, that could feel things and stuff like that. Yeah, and the soul is part of the soul realm where everything started, where that's reality, where where as I see now these things, even though I'm not weak, I'm part of the experience and stuff like that. No, but the soul is experiencing through the eyes of me and stuff like that. Either way, I think that's what it is, I, I believe, yeah, I think that's what's going on right now. So we are souls, some of our spirits, which means our NPCs, and we are souls trapped in the simulation, prisoners, and stuff like that. Okay, bye.